If you've been interested in the Zwift Ride with the Kickr Core 2 package, stay tuned and I'll share my short review and first impressions. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are talking about the Zwift Ride package with the Kickr Core 2. I've had this for the last couple of weeks, and I do have a video for the unboxing if you want to see this, everything that comes in the box and the packages. Take a look at that. I'll put the link in the description below. Okay, so for the Zwift Ride first impressions, it is a solid build. It's a steel construction. The handlebars are fairly thin but feel good. The controllers are in a perfect spot to hit your ride on buttons, also to change gears. And with the combination that I got, I did pay for the extra iPad holder to put my iPad so I can either play Zwift, or while I'm playing Zwift on the big screen, I can watch YouTube or anything like that during my workouts. The customization and the setup for the Zwift Ride and the Kickr Core 2 was dead simple, really easy to do. Setting it up was less than 30 minutes. Dialing it in took a few rides, and I think that is where I'm going to share and start with my first impressions. The build quality and everything like that, it has only been a couple weeks, but had no issues. Took me a little bit to set it up, but to really dial in the fit was a few rides. And it's not as easy as I thought it would be if I was going to switch between myself and my partner, my wife, to ride on Zwift. It is a little bit. So what I mean by that is the cool thing about the Zwift Ride, it literally only takes one tool to make all the adjustments. So make all the adjustments with the handlebars, to make the adjustments for the stem, and make adjustments for the seat, the setback, and the tilt, etc. is just with one Allen key or with one tool. So that's really, really nice. Now, Zwift actually in the box gives you a quick guide. Obviously, if you have your road bike, or maybe you don't even have a road bike, it does give you a nice starting point to play around. And I did that for myself as well. I got my height, I put all the adjustments based on the card, got under the seat. And then that's when I started to make some changes, because with the Zwift Ride, by default, and unless you purchase an extra edition, this has and comes with 170 millimeter cranks, which isn't a big deal. My road bike today, which I have a Trek Amonda, and I'm running 170 millimeter cranks. I did want some adjustable cranks because I did want to play around and change my cranks to 165, 160, maybe even 155. And there is an additional package that you can get that will give you that adjustability. But for now, I'm using the 170 millimeter cranks. So with adjustments with your seat is if you are using the flat pedals or you are using clipless pedals. So I did change the pedals to SPD SLs. I think they're the 105s. And it does give you a little bit of a rise. So I had to change the seat for, I probably dialed it in on the third or fourth ride where I felt a little bit comfortable. The setback is the same as my road bike. And the seat, I had to tilt just a little bit higher for whatever reason than my road bike. It did make it a lot more comfortable. I think it does have something to do that the actual bike, the Zwift Ride, is stationary. Now, with the regards to the stem, that's the only thing I adjusted. I typically have my handlebars slam, so I had it at the lowest setting for the Zwift Ride, didn't raise it, but I did move the stem and then found a nice little comfort point, which again, both the seat and the stem length changed a little bit from the original card. Like I said, the card that it comes with does give you a good starting point. So how does this kind of compare? First ride, if you've never been on an indoor trainer, it has a good feel of a road bike. Again, you don't have to have your main bike in indoor training. Now, there are a few things I'll chat about a little bit later and why I kind of chose to use this as my winter setup than using my road bike on the Wahoo Kickr roller. So the adjustability is great. The bar tape actually is not bad. I'm a little bit stickler when it comes to bar tape. On my road bike, I've went through 3 or 4 different bar tapes before I kind of dialed into what I have, and also just based on the season. And the controllers are actually really, really good because they're where you want them to be. Now, I'm using an Apple TV. So when I was riding, I didn't have a lot of control anyways to do ride-ons or anything like that because I didn't want to fiddle with the remote. Now, when I did use my MacBook Air, that was a little bit different. If I had the keyboard in front of me, then I can hit certain buttons. Just the convenience of having the controllers right at your fingertips is not necessarily a game changer, but it does make it easy to do your ride-ons, do your power-ups, etc., to ensure that you have a great experience, especially if you're racing. And I'll talk about racing right now because I did do my first race on the Zwift Ride. I did come in second. It was a great experience. I was able to sprint out of the saddle. I was really able to challenge the Zwift Ride, and it worked really well, very stable. And I was a little bit worried about the Kickr Core 2, not specifically about the durability, but how it would play out in the feel in a race. Because if I'm just doing, let's say, a ride, no big deal. It's more of like when I'm going out of the saddle and I'm sprinting, because I was kind of looking at the Wahoo Kickr version 6, which is compatible with the Zwift Cog, or I was actually looking at the Tacx Neo 2T as well as something that would be a little bit more stable. To my surprise, the Kickr Core 2 was amazing. I'm not someone that does 1800 watts. I think my max on this trainer, I think I hit maybe 800 watts, didn't even hit 1,000 on a sprint. And did it shift a little bit? Yeah, it did. It shifted a little bit, but not a lot where I was worried. So again, this is my first direct drive trainer. My other experience, just for context, is with the Wahoo Kickr rollers. And again, I'll talk about more about that on a different video, just the feel and the experience with it. But I do also have another video that you may want to take a look, and I'll put in the links below. So yes, the Zwift Ride, very durable. I really love the bottle holders, just because they're made for indoor. It's easy to grab them in and out, just the way that they are shaped. Very well designed, especially if you're indoor training. Now, outdoor training, obviously you want some resistance, make sure it doesn't fall out when you're riding. However, for indoor training, because it's stationary, it is great. Just little things like that I felt really good about. Now, other than that, when it comes to the fork of the Zwift Ride, just being on this one leg, I was thinking to myself, like, is this going to be a problem? Especially, again, like I said, if I'm out of the saddle, sprinting or anything like that, would this make it feel unstable, or would I feel like falling off? And to my surprise, it's fine. It's great. It's stable. The one leg, no big deal. There is a little bit of give from left to right, which is nice. And I thought maybe there was something wrong. I checked the through axle. I said, isn't it not supposed to be stiff? And it was actually a pleasant surprise, especially when you're in a sprint. Again, if you are just cruising and you're doing a workout, and I'll talk about workouts right now as well, it's great. Steady state, doing intervals in erg mode for the Kickr Core 2 is awesome. So, not a lot of people, I mean, you may have more experience than me, but being over 40, just some simplicity and don't have to think about it is a big win for me. So the things about the Kickr Core 2 that I was surprised about and is the Wi-Fi bridge. And why that's important for me is because I use an Apple TV 90% of the time. I will use my MacBook occasionally if I just want to have a better visual experience. However, if I just want it to work, I don't have to worry about updates. I use an Apple TV. Now, if you're unfamiliar, the Apple TV only has 2 available Bluetooths to connect to. And so I was worried that I would have to use my MacBook all the time or maybe purchase a separate computer just for a couple bases, in the sense that when I'm connecting my sensors. So when I have the Wahoo Kickr Rollr, I would have to connect the Kickr Rollr. That would be one Bluetooth capability for the Apple TV. And then second would be my pedals. So with the Wahoo Kickr Rollr, just as an example, you do need to have your own power meter. It's not built into the Kickr Rollr. And then I had a heart rate monitor. So then if you had any more sensors other than that, you wouldn't be able to connect it to the Apple TV. You would either have to use a computer or just for that particular session, not have an additional sensor. Now, with the Kickr Core 2, it bridges everything, which is kind of nice. So I have no issues connecting all my sensors to the Apple TV. And if I were to get more sensors in the future, so again, future-proofing myself, then I'll be A-okay. So literally, now when I have my Apple TV, it recognizes the Wahoo Kickr, it recognizes the controllers, it recognizes my heart rate monitor, and of course, everything else to make Zwift work. And I have everything that I need. So very, very good. Now, when it comes to the Kickr Core 2 and the Zwift Ride, in the setup, I did say that physically putting it together was fairly easy and it was great. The second part is just the updates. It did take a little bit to update the software on the controllers and update the Kickr Core 2. But once that was done, it's been pretty seamless. I haven't had any dropped signal when it comes to a ride, especially when I read in Reddit or just even in Facebook groups about Zwift Ride, or I shouldn't say Zwift Ride, but Zwift Racing is having a drop, especially when you are trying to get a climb or going to the finish line and the signal drops either through Bluetooth or Ant Plus or whatever your connection to your computer or Apple TV, in my case, to the Kickr Core 2 or your trainer. And I haven't had any drops. I think Wi-Fi Direct or the Wi-Fi technology that's sending all the signals has been great. I did find race mode to be very, very effective in that changing of my gears, and has been all great. Now, let's talk about some things that aren't bad. It's just different. So with most, if all of you, before the Zwift Ride, you probably had a dedicated indoor road bike, or you're using your main road bike on a trainer. So I was using the Wahoo Kickr Rollr with my road bike, which has electric shifting. I believe I'm using Shimano Di2. And so that feel of changing gears, and I'm on Rollr, so it's not a direct drive. So I feel an instant change in gears. I have a nice road feel. And because I have my back tire and I'm using my pedals, I'm putting force in it, and it feels really, really good and really natural. And even though maybe the resistance isn't as effective instantaneously on the screen, the feel that I get is instantaneous, if that makes sense, from switching each gear. On the Zwift Ride, you're using the controllers and it's virtual shifting. So you hit a button and then the virtual cog will create a signal and then change the resistance to the Wahoo Kickr. It's just different. So I'm switching gears and it gives you a little bit of haptic feedback, just a little vibration, so you know that you've hit the button, and then you start to feel the resistance. It's just different. Once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. The first couple rides, it took a little bit from what I was used to. How will that translate once I'm back on the road will be determined. So again, I've had the Zwift Ride, been riding almost every day. I've maybe been doing 5 to 6 days a week for the last 14 days. So I've had a really good feel in the 5-kilometer range to, I want to say 42 to 45, almost 50-kilometer range. So I've been riding it from as little as 15 minutes as my warm-up for my workouts to a, quote unquote longer ride to about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. The saddle for comfort is better than I thought. My initial reactions when I had the thought process of putting this together was two things. I'm going to switch the saddle and I'm going to switch the handlebars. So starting with the seat, I did have some issues when I first started, and I think maybe that was more because it just wasn't the right height yet. My setback wasn't set correctly. But once it's been dialed in, I've actually had no issues. Now, again, for context, my longest ride has been about an hour and 45 minutes. I haven't done a 2, 3, or 4-hour ride on the Zwift Ride. And because there's a little bit of give of left to right, I think is also the reason why I haven't had too many issues. Will I change the saddle in the future? Maybe. So let's shift into the handlebars. The handlebars are a little bit different. The hoods are plastic. They're not like that rubber feeling that you have like real hoods. Again, something I'm not used to, but very easy to adjust to over time. I thought I was going to have issues with that. It's not that I'm wearing gloves or anything like that. I've heard a lot of people either changing to the hoods and then getting the controllers, or wearing gloves to kind of compensate for the ride feel or the feel of being on a real road bike. But for me, it hasn't been a problem. After probably third, fourth ride, hasn't been an issue. The handlebars themselves I feel like it's thinner than my handlebars and traditional handlebars. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to change these handlebars. I have arrow handlebars, but let's be honest, you don't need arrow handlebars for an indoor trainer. However, I wanted to feel at least to have regular handlebars. The tape itself was fine. And after riding it for 2 weeks, I'm okay with it. I don't think I'm going to change those handlebars. What I may add is, I shouldn't say arrow handlebars in the sense of the triathlon handlebars, but I meant that my aero carbon handlebars just have a little bit of a wider space between the stem and the hoods. Now, what I was thinking maybe in the future, as I get into longer rides, is to add aero handlebars for like what tri-bikes would have, and just to get into a comfortable position and just not think and just ride. Again, for longer durations. Okay, and everything else has been pretty solid. I love the tablet holder. I do kind of wish that was included, but I do understand why it's not. Because if you don't have a tablet and you're running a computer and let's say you have an indoor cycling desk that you put things on, having that holder would block some view. The tablet holder, it's been great. I always have my iPad on there. I do have a TV, as you can see in my setup. And the TV, I'll run Zwift most of the time. And then I will put maybe YouTube or something like that on the iPad. Typically podcasts, as boring as that may sound, but it gets me through some vigorous workouts. So some opportunities and seeing some things for the Zwift Ride in the future. That will be more so for my long-term review. But let's just recap on my initial impressions. I'm really glad that I got the Zwift Ride for my indoor trainer as my dedicated bike. And here's a couple of reasons why. One, I'm with the Wahoo Kickr Rollr, not worried about burning out my tires. I'm not worried about putting time on my drivetrain or my chain or anything like that. And I can kind of reserve that for my outdoor rides. And I'm lucky or blessed to have a spot in my garage where I can keep it, set it up, and forget about it. So again, if you don't have those types of luxury where maybe you need to put away the bike or you need to put away the indoor trainer or things like that, this may not be the way to go. It's just like a real bike in the sense that you can adjust anything. You can, upgrade the seat. You can upgrade the handlebars. And the only other thing that I would think about for long term that I'm thinking about is maintenance, is maybe lubing the chain and replacing the chain in the future. And of course, you can always upgrade the actual smart trainer if you want to go from the Kickr Core 2 to, let's say, to the Wahoo Kickr version 6. The one thing that I noticed, which is something to think about, is that the Zwift Ride is not compatible with the Wahoo Climb or the Kickr Move. And I think that really has to do with the weight of the frame as well as that one leg in the front. I'm sure there'll be some adjustments to maybe have something optimized or another product in the future. But for now, for today, the Zwift Ride is going to be more compatible with traditional, I'm going to call it traditional smart trainers that don't have any movement in it. So hopefully you found value so far in this video. This was a little bit longer than I thought, but my initial thoughts are very, very positive. Again, if you want to check in for more, I'll probably have a 90-day review and then a long-term review after that once the winter season is over. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.